Hey everyone, welcome back to MangaMinute. I'm thrilled to share my latest recap video with you. If you missed the previous one, no worries, just take a quick peek in the description below for the link. Now, let's dive right in and enjoy.
The arena was filled with the hum of anticipation as participants gathered, the air thick with the sound of ceremonial music. It was more than just a gathering. It marked the commencement of the Sichuan Assembly, a revered event where power and ambition clashed. As the music faded, Yeon-Myeong stepped into the center of the arena, her presence commanding attention. The participants fell silent, waiting for the words that would set the tone for the assembly. Without preamble, Yeon-Myeong addressed them, her voice carrying the weight of tradition and the gravity of the event. She spoke of what everyone already knew, yet needed to hear aloud. The Sichuan Assembly was a battlefield of interests, where power struggles were resolved through martial duels. The stakes were no mere tokens, but rights that could define lives for 5 years. Contracts were sealed, and the winner would claim the spoils, with the authority of the main sect ensuring the legitimacy of the outcomes. Violating these rules wasn't just an offense against an opponent, it was an affront to the entire Black Death Alliance, with dire consequences for the transgressor. After delivering the explanation, Yeon-Myeong gestured to the side of the arena, where a figure of great renown seated. This year's assembly was distinguished by the presence of one of the most feared and respected figures in the martial world, Tang Yeon-Myeong, known as the Sword of Nine Rings. His very name sent a ripple through the crowd. Murmurs rose as participants recognized the legend before them. Tang Yeon-Myeong was no ordinary swordsman. He was one of the 6 Grand Masters of the Evil Path, the Black Death Alliance's strongest force. To see him here was both an honor and a harrowing reminder of the stakes. Those who practiced the sword admired him from a distance, some wishing for the chance to meet him, others fearing the day they might face him. Among the crowd, Yeon-Myeong's gaze was fixed on the master. A sense of unease stirred within him as he studied Tang Yeon-Myeong. There was no doubt, the swordsman had reached the fire realm level, a stage of power far beyond the grasp of most martial artists. From his seat, Tang Yeon-Myeong, the Sword of Nine Rings, greeted the assembly. His presence alone commanded attention, but his tone, unusually humble for one of such renown, carried a weight of authority. Introducing himself, he acknowledged the honor of being present at the Sichuan Assembly that year. His purpose was clear. He had come alongside Yeon-Hui, the leader's daughter, and his expectations for the participants were high. Though he spoke with modesty, there was an unmistakable edge in his words, a challenge to the gathered warriors to show their best. As Tang Yeon-Myeong concluded his brief address, Yeon-Myeong took control of the assembly once more. She announced that the famed master would oversee all life and death duels for this year's event. Anyone wishing to engage in such a high-stakes match would need his permission first, a tradition meant to ensure that these dangerous duels were not taken lightly. As soon as Yeon-Myeong finished her speech, a ripple of tension spread through the crowd. One of the participants stood and raised his hand, a bold challenge escaping his lips. It was Mak Chanhui, the current leader of the Great Darkness Silent Sword sect and the eldest son of Mak Injuk. His words hung in the air like a blade, as he demanded a life-and-death duel with none other than the young family head of the Tang clan. The crowd stirred at the audacity of the request. This was no ordinary duel. This was vengeance. Tang Yeon-Myeong's gaze shifted to the challenger, noting the distinctive black garb and the twin swords at Mak Chanhui's back. Recognizing his sect, the master reflected on the situation. The silent swordsman was not here merely for honor. This was personal. The Tang clan's young family head had defeated Mak Injuk in the past, a surprising victory over one of the most formidable fighters in the Great Darkness Silent Sword sect. Now, it seemed, Mak Chanhui sought to settle that unfinished business, his desire for revenge as palpable as the tension in the arena. Meanwhile, in the crowd, not all agreed with the narrative being painted. Mirio, a member of the Tang clan, was visibly irritated, feeling the weight of the accusation. Her frustration stemmed from a different perspective, one that saw the Great Darkness Silent Sword sect as the original aggressors. But her companion, Young, quietly urged restraint, knowing that it was not the time or place to voice such protests. Tang Yeon-Myeong, observing the intensity of the moment, gave his decision. The duel was to proceed. The young family head of the Tang clan was called to the stage, and the challenge was accepted. The arena grew silent as both Mak Chanhui and the Tang clan's young family heads stepped onto the stage. All eyes were locked on the two, the weight of history and vengeance about to unfold in a battle that would decide more than just personal honor. It was a clash of legacies, fueled by the bitter desire for retribution. The duel was about to begin. As both participants stood on the stage, the crowd buzzed with excitement. Among them, Yeon-Hui couldn't contain her enthusiasm as she admired the young family head of the Tang clan. There had been many rumors surrounding his strength, and now, seeing him in person, she found herself captivated not only by his martial prowess but by his striking appearance as well. Meanwhile, Sang Mayong-il observed the scene with a sigh. Yeon-Hui's excitement was evident, and he couldn't help but think how much of a letdown it would be if the Tang clan were to lose this duel. Yet, as the master overseeing the proceedings, his focus remained sharp. With a commanding voice, he reminded everyone that no one, aside from the combatants, their guards or attendants, could interfere in the life-and-death duel. There would be no restrictions on attack methods, and surrender could be ignored. Both fighters had to accept these terms. Both Yeon-Myeong, the young family head of the Tang clan, and Mak Chanhui of the Great Darkness Silent Sword sect agreed without hesitation, their voices steady as they prepared for the clash. Sang Mayong-il, maintaining the formality of the duel, granted permission for each participant to have their guards and attendants present. Two guards immediately stepped forward to stand behind Mak Chanhui, a clear display of the support he had brought with him. In contrast, no one joined Yeon-Myeong on the stage. This caught Sang Mayong-il's attention, and he inquired whether the young family head intended to bring any of his guards. Yeon-Myeong's response was calm, even taunting. He had already brought his guards, but he had given them strict instructions not to interfere. His confidence was palpable, implying that the number of people on the stage wouldn't change the outcome of the battle. Sang Mayong-il, impressed by the boldness of Yeon-Myeong's answer, acknowledged the statement with approval. The atmosphere grew heavier as the two combatants faced each other, the tension thickening with every second. With a final declaration, the master announced the start of the duel. As the battle commenced, Mak Chanhui and his two subordinates unsheathed their twin swords, their movements deliberate and synchronized. A dark, ominous aura emanated from their blades, an unmistakable sign of the Great Darkness Silent Sword sect's signature dark sword energy. The spectators whispered among themselves in awe, recognizing the formidable twin sword technique that had made the sect's master so feared. Mak Chanhui, standing back for the moment, exchanged a silent glance with his subordinates. With an unspoken order, they moved into action, their dark swords gleaming as they charged at Yeon-Myeong with lethal precision. The plan was simple. His men would engage the Tang clan's young family head, distracting him long enough for Mak Chanhui to exploit any opening and strike with devastating force. However, the unfolding events did not go as planned. In the blink of an eye, Yeon-Myeong stood calm and unmoved, a picture of unshakable confidence. The moment Mak Chanhui's men reached him, they were stopped, overpowered effortlessly by Yeon-Myeong. It happened so swiftly that even Mak Chanhui's calculating mind barely had time to register it. His eyes widened in disbelief as he watched his subordinates fall to the ground before they could land a single blow. Gasps echoed through the arena. Yeo-Seal Ryan, Sang Mayong-il, and the spectators were equally stunned by the sudden turn of events. Confusion rippled through the crowd as murmurs grew louder. How had the attackers collapsed so easily? Then someone shouted in astonishment, pointing at the fallen men. "Look, feathered needles. They're stuck in their necks." The realization hit hard. The needles had been fired with such incredible speed and precision that even Sang Mayong-il, a master in his own right, hadn't seen them. He stood there, silently impressed and intrigued, his mind turning over the possibility that this young Tang clan leader had reached a level of skill far beyond what anyone had anticipated. The speed and mastery of the hidden weapons left him in awe, the needle strikes too fast for even his expert eyes to catch. Yeon-Myeong stood calmly as his opponents remained frozen, taunting them with a voice laced in boredom. His words were sharp, meant to provoke, and they hit their mark. Mak Chanhui's anger flared, his composure shattered. Enraged, he roared a threat and charged forward, twin swords gleaming with dark energy. His every movement was fueled by fury and desperation, as he closed the distance between them, determined to crush the young Tang clan leader. But just as Mak Chanhui's swords were about to strike, Yeon-Myeong vanished from sight. His opponent's blades sliced through empty air, leaving Mak Chanhui in a stunned silence. His mind raced, struggling to comprehend what had just happened. How could his target simply disappear? Confusion clouded his thoughts. Before he could react, Yeon-Myeong reappeared, standing effortlessly beside him, as if the violent assault had been nothing more than a breeze. Calm and composed, Yeon-Myeong's voice cut through the chaos, reminding Mak Chanhui of a bitter truth. He spoke of the past, recalling how, during a previous competition, their Tang clan had been attacked by those wielding sword energy similar to Mak Chanhui's. His tone was dismissive, even scornful. Among the attackers were two notable figures, Mak Chanhui's father, the former head of the Great Darkness Silent Sword sect, and a spy. But then, with a quick and precise motion, Yeon-Myeong launched a poison needle directly at Mak Chanhui. His words were like a final judgment as he declared that Mak Chanhui fell far short of either his father or the spy. The needle struck with lethal accuracy, leaving no room for counterattack. Mak Chanhui's eyes widened in disbelief as he realized the duel was already over. His thoughts spiraled in confusion and frustration, grappling with the harsh reality. How had it ended so quickly? How had he been bested so easily? The sheer difference in their abilities left him stunned, unable to comprehend the swiftness of his defeat. Leaving his defeated opponent behind, Yeon-Myeong walked away from the stage with a quiet irritation brewing within him. His thoughts lingered on the hypocrisy of the situation, how those who had initiated the conflict now spoke endlessly of revenge. It was a cycle that felt both exhausting and absurd to him. The weight of those past battles, the misplaced honor, and the endless grudges clouded any sense of fairness. As the crowd absorbed the swift conclusion of the duel, murmurs rippled through the arena. Many could hardly believe how quickly the battle had ended, some barely aware of the fight's intensity until it was over. "It hasn't even been half a quarter of an hour since they started," someone whispered in disbelief. The gap in skill was undeniable, but it left the crowd divided. Some questioned the stark difference between the two fighters, while others speculated about the true source of the imbalance. "Is the skill gap really this big?" one spectator asked quietly, as if trying to make sense of what they had just witnessed. Another voice chimed in, grappling with the same question. "Is the Tang clan's young family head just that skilled? Or is the successor of the Great Darkness Silent Sword sect simply that lacking?" The duel had ended before anyone could fully grasp its significance, and now the crowd was left to piece together the truth from the fragments of what they'd seen. Mak Chanhui stood in silent fury, his lips trembling as he bit down in frustration. His mind churned with bitter thoughts, the humiliation unbearable. It wasn't just his failure to avenge his father that gnawed at him. It was the realization that he had been bested by someone he considered beneath him. Rage surged through him, tightening his grip on his twin swords. The aura around him darkened and intensified, a manifestation of his growing anger and desperation. The crowd sensed the shift in energy, and a voice rang out from the spectators. "Wait! It's not over yet. Mak Chanhui's sword. It's being dyed black." All eyes turned back to the stage, anticipating a final desperate assault. In a wild burst of fury, Mak Chanhui lunged at Yeon-Myeong, who had his back turned. Swinging his swords with all his might, he was determined to end the battle in one final stroke. His thoughts raced as he sought to prove his worth, to show that he was not weaker than the Tang clan's young family head. But Yeon-Myeong, unfazed and calm, didn't even flinch. In one effortless motion, he caught Mak Chanhui's incoming swords with his bare hand, stopping the attack instantly. The force of the blow was absorbed as if it were nothing. Mak Chanhui froze, his eyes wide with disbelief. He caught the sword. With his bare hands? The thought echoed in his mind as reality set in. His final strike had been rendered powerless. Yeon-Myeong, maintaining his serene demeanor, tightened his grip on the swords. With a subtle but decisive motion, he shattered them into pieces. The swords, once the symbols of Mak Chanhui's pride and power, crumbled like fragile glass in his hands. The arena fell into stunned silence. Spectators stared in shock, jaws slack at the sight of the young Tang clan leader's overwhelming display of strength. Among them, Mirio sighed, her astonishment replaced with resignation. At this point, nothing surprises me anymore, she muttered, as if acknowledging the inevitability of Yeon-Myeong's dominance. Beside her, Young nodded in agreement. Now, I can't even imagine that guy losing, she added, sharing the same sentiment. As his opponent lay defeated on the ground, Yeon-Myeong stood over him, deep in thought. His intention had been to take it easy to show some restraint. But the resilience Mak Chanhui had shown was unexpected. Despite being hit with a poison needle laced with venomous energy, designed to numb both the body and senses, Mak Chanhui had continued to fight. To face death with such skill was remarkable, even if futile. The battle was over, but the crowd remained captivated. Mayong, observing the scene, marveled aloud at what had just unfolded. Yeon-Myeong's blade-catching technique had left an impression on him, especially in a duel of this magnitude. He had heard that the Tang clan trained their hands to handle sharp weapons, possibly using gloves or conditioning techniques, but to block a sword imbued with energy was beyond expectation. Yeon-Myeong, still composed, kept his thoughts to himself. It wasn't merely physical conditioning or gloves that allowed him to catch the blade. In truth, it was thanks to his protective aura, dragon scale, that he had been able to execute the move with such ease. But there was no need to reveal that detail. Let the myth of the Tang clan's hand techniques grow. Calmly, he affirmed Mayong-il's assumption, allowing the mystery to linger. Satisfied with the outcome, Mayong-il declared the victory official, confirming Yeon-Myeong's dominance in the duel. He acknowledged the fine display of skill, offering Yeon-Myeong the option to continue with further challenges or to stop if he so chose. Yeon-Myeong, with the same calm confidence he had shown throughout the battle, made it clear that he intended to continue. His tone, laced with a hint of mockery, conveyed the depths of his assurance. Whether he faced one opponent or all under the Black Death Alliance, the result would be the same. The air around him bristled with an unshakable certainty, leaving no doubt in the minds of those watching that the young family head of the Tang clan was prepared to face any challenge thrown his way.